The mall was chaos. Christmas Eve, 3 hours before closing, and it seemed like every last-minute shopper in Seattle had descended on Northgate Center simultaneously. Catherine Wells stood in the corner near the bookstore, baseball cap pulled low, oversized sunglasses hiding half her face despite being indoors, watching the madness unfold. She shouldn't be here. She should be at the company Christmas gala, smiling for photos, pretending everything was fine. Instead, she was hiding in a mall like a teenager ditching school, because if she had to paste on one more fake smile and pretend her world wasn't falling apart, she might actually break. Her phone buzzed. 15th call from her assistant in the past hour. Catherine declined it, turned off the phone completely, and shoved it in her pocket. Just for tonight, she wanted to be invisible. Not Catherine Wells, founder and president of Wells Tech. Not the woman on magazine covers. Just invisible. The Santa line stretched across the entire center court. Dozens of families, children bouncing with excitement, parents looking exhausted but happy. Catherine watched them with something uncomfortably close to envy. When was the last time she'd felt that kind of simple joy? A little boy, maybe 6 years old, broke from the line and ran straight toward her, chasing after a dropped toy. He collided with Catherine's legs, stumbled, looked up at her with wide eyes. "Sorry, miss." He grabbed his toy car and started to run back. "Leo, be careful." A man's voice, warm but firm. The father appeared, reaching for his son's hand, then stopped mid-motion when he saw Catherine. Really saw her, despite the cap and sunglasses. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We love knowing how far these stories of hope and resilience travel. Your comments inspire us to keep bringing you powerful narratives every week. Recognition flickered across his face. Not the starstruck recognition she usually got, but something different. Something that made her instinctively pull the cap lower. "Sorry about that," the man said, but he was still looking at her with that strange expression. Concern, maybe. Understanding. He gets excited about Santa. Impulse control isn't his strong suit yet. "It's fine," Catherine said, keeping her voice neutral, hoping he'd just take his son and leave. But he didn't move. "Are you okay?" The question, asked so simply, so genuinely, hit Catherine harder than it should have. "I'm fine." "You're crying. Under the sunglasses, I can tell." Catherine's hand flew to her face, felt the dampness she hadn't realized was there. "I'm not. I need to go." She turned to leave, but the crowd had shifted, blocked her escape route. She was trapped in a corner with this stranger and his son, and she was absolutely going to lose it right here in the middle of a mall. "Hey," the man said, voice gentler now. "I don't know what you're going through, but I recognize that look. Like you're barely holding it together, and if one more thing goes wrong, you'll shatter. I've been there." Catherine stared at this man in a worn yellow jacket and jeans, holding his son's hand in the Santa line like he had nowhere more important to be. "You don't know anything about me." "No," he agreed, "but I know pain when I see it. And you look like you need somewhere to hide for a while." He glanced around. "The Santa line takes about an hour. No one pays attention to anyone else in line. Everyone's focused on their own kids. You could just stand here, breathe. No one would bother you." "That's ridiculous," Catherine said. "I can't just stand in your Santa line." "Why not?" He smiled, and it reached his eyes in a way that made something ache in Catherine's chest. "Catherine," she whispered, "and yes, please, I just need somewhere to be invisible for a while." Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We love knowing how far these stories of hope and resilience travel. Your comments inspire us to keep bringing you powerful narratives every week. Standing in the Santa line with strangers should have felt absurd. Catherine Wells, worth $6.3 billion, hiding between a single father and his energetic 6-year-old, waiting to see a mall Santa. But somehow, in the anonymous chaos of Christmas Eve shopping, it felt like the first real breath she'd taken in weeks. She watched a mother ahead of them adjust her daughter's coat with automatic tenderness, and something twisted in Catherine's chest.
That kind of casual affection, she'd never had it. Her adoptive parents had been good people, older, kind in their way, but they'd never known how to show warmth. Love had been a roof over her head, food on the table, tuition paid. Never hugs that lasted, never "I love you" said easily, never this, the unconscious intimacy of a parent who'd been raised knowing how to give affection freely. She'd learned early, you can't miss what you never had. You just build walls so high that needing it stops mattering. Except tonight, watching Ethan casually ruffle his son's hair, Catherine felt those walls cracking. "So," Ethan said, after a few minutes of companionable silence, "do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to distract you with fascinating facts about Santa line etiquette?" Despite everything, Catherine almost smiled. Santa line etiquette? Oh yes, there's a whole hierarchy. See that family? They've brought snacks. Veteran move. The family behind them? No snacks, but they've got screens. Rookie mistake, kids get overstimulated, meltdowns ensue. "And you?" Catherine asked, glancing at Leo, who was making his toy car zoom along the velvet rope barriers. "I've got the secret weapon." Ethan pulled a small box from his pocket. Travel-size Legos. Quiet, engaging, perfect for building patience, literally and figuratively. Leo looked up at the box, eyes lighting up. "Can I, Dad?" "When we're halfway there, Bug, that's the deal." Catherine watched this exchange, the casual intimacy of a father who knew exactly how to manage his son, who'd thought ahead, who was present. The kind of father she'd never had. The kind of connection she'd spent 41 years telling herself didn't matter. "You've done this before." "Every year since Leo could walk. It's our tradition." Ethan's voice held something wistful. "His mom used to love Christmas. We try to keep that alive for him." "Used to?" "She died 4 years ago, car accident." Ethan said it matter-of-factly, but Catherine heard the pain underneath. "So now it's just us, me and Leo against the world, making sure Christmas still feels magical." "I'm sorry," Catherine said, meaning it. That must be incredibly hard. Standing in the Santa line with strangers should have felt absurd. Catherine Wells, worth $6.3 billion, hiding between a single father and his energetic 6-year-old, waiting to see a mall Santa. But somehow, in the anonymous chaos of Christmas Eve shopping, it felt like the first real breath she'd taken in weeks. She watched a mother ahead of them adjust her daughter's coat with automatic tenderness, and something twisted in Catherine's chest. That kind of casual affection, she'd never had it. Her adoptive parents had been good people, older, kind in their way, but they'd never known how to show warmth. Love had been a roof over her head, food on the table, tuition paid. Never hugs that lasted, never "I love you" said easily, never this, the unconscious intimacy of a parent who'd been raised knowing how to give affection freely. She'd learned early, you can't miss what you never had. You just build walls so high that needing it stops mattering. Except tonight, watching Ethan casually ruffle his son's hair, Catherine felt those walls cracking. "So," Ethan said, after a few minutes of companionable silence, "do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to distract you with fascinating facts about Santa line etiquette?" Despite everything, Catherine almost smiled. "Santa line etiquette? Oh yes, there's a whole hierarchy. See that family? They've brought snacks. Veteran move. The family behind them? No snacks, but they've got screens. Rookie mistake, kids get overstimulated, meltdowns ensue." "And you?" Catherine asked, glancing at Leo, who was making his toy car zoom along the velvet rope barriers. "I've got the secret weapon." Ethan pulled a small box from his pocket. Travel-size Legos. Quiet, engaging, perfect for building patience, literally and figuratively. Leo looked up at the box, eyes lighting up. "Can I, Dad?" "When we're halfway there, Bug, that's the deal." Catherine watched this exchange, the casual intimacy of a father who knew exactly how to manage his son, who'd thought ahead, who was present. The kind of father she'd never had. The kind of connection she'd spent 41 years telling herself didn't matter. "You've done this before." "Every year since Leo could walk. It's our tradition." Ethan's voice held something wistful. His mom used to love Christmas. We try to keep that alive for him. Used to? She died 4 years ago, car accident. Ethan said it matter-of-factly, but Catherine heard the pain underneath. So now it's just us, me and Leo against the world, making sure Christmas still feels magical. I'm sorry, Catherine said, meaning it. That must be incredibly hard.
Some days more than others. Ethan looked at her. But that's the thing about grief. You learn to carry it. Doesn't get lighter. You just get stronger. Or at least that's what I tell myself at 3 a.m. when the weight of single parenting feels unbearable. Catherine pulled off her sunglasses, wiped her eyes. I lost my brother 3 months ago. Not died, just lost him. He was my business partner, my best friend, the only family that ever really felt like family. Catherine's voice caught. We were both adopted, different families, but we met in college, both of us knowing what it felt like to be wanted on paper but not quite chosen. We promised each other we'd build something together, that we'd be each other's real family. She pulled something from her pocket, a small brass compass, old and tarnished. He gave me this when we started the company, said it was to make sure I never lost my way. And then we had a fight about company direction, and he quit, and now he won't return my calls. I've been carrying this every day, and I don't know if it's a reminder of who I was supposed to be or proof that I already lost my way. Ethan looked at the compass, then at her face. That might be worse in some ways. Death is final. You can't fix it, so you have to accept it. But losing someone who's still out there, who could come back but chooses not to, that's its own special kind of torture. Yes, Catherine breathed. Exactly that. And everyone tells me to just let it go, move on, focus on the business. But he's my brother, not by blood, but by choice. And I don't know how to move on from that. The line shuffled forward. Leo showed him his Lego creation, a spaceship, apparently, though it looked more like a multicolored rectangle. Ethan praised it enthusiastically, and Catherine found herself smiling at the boy's obvious pride. So that's why you're hiding in a mall on Christmas Eve, escaping well-meaning advice and company parties? Something like that. I'm supposed to be at a gala right now, schmoozing investors, projecting confidence, being Catherine Wells, tech mogul. She gestured at her jeans and hoodie. Instead, I'm having an existential crisis in the Santa line. Well, if you're going to have an existential crisis, the Santa line is surprisingly therapeutic. Ethan's tone was light, but his eyes were serious. No one expects anything from you here. You're just another person waiting. It's weirdly freeing. He was right. Catherine realized with surprise that she hadn't thought about quarterly earnings or hostile board members or her brother's betrayal in nearly 15 minutes. She'd just been present, watching Leo, listening to Ethan, existing without performance. Thank you, she said quietly, for this, for not making it weird that I'm a random stranger crashing your Christmas tradition. You're not random, Ethan said. You're someone who needed help, and I had space in my Santa line. That's how it works, right? We help each other through the hard stuff. He paused. Though I should probably admit, I know who you are. The sunglasses aren't as effective as you think. Catherine's heart sank. You recognized me? Not at first, but yeah, eventually. You're on billboards downtown. Kind of hard to miss. He saw her expression. But that doesn't change anything. You still looked like you needed somewhere to hide. Still do, actually. So the offer stands. Stay as long as you need. Why? Catherine asked. Why help me? I'm a stranger, a rich one who definitely doesn't need charity. Ethan considered this. 2 years ago, I had a complete breakdown in the grocery store. Full panic attack. Couldn't breathe, thought I was dying. And this random woman, didn't know me at all, sat with me on the floor until I could function again, missed her daughter's recital to help a stranger. She said, his voice caught. She said that we're all barely holding it together, and the least we can do is catch each other when we fall. Catherine felt tears welling again. I'm falling a lot lately. Then let someone catch you, even if it's just for an hour in a Santa line. Ethan smiled. Besides, Leo is actually behaving better with you here. He's showing off his good behavior. You're doing me a favor. As if on cue, Leo tugged on Catherine's sleeve. Are you going to tell Santa what you want for Christmas too? Catherine looked down at the boy's earnest face. I don't think Santa takes requests from adults. Sure he does. My dad asks every year. He never asks for stuff, though, just asks for me to be happy and healthy. What would you ask for? Catherine crouched down to Leo's level. I'd ask for the courage to fix something I broke, and maybe for my brother to forgive me. That's easy, Leo declared with 6-year-old confidence. You just say sorry and mean it. That's what Dad taught me. When I mess up, I say sorry and do better. Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan murmured. He's not wrong, though. Have you tried just telling your brother you're sorry? 100 times. Voicemails, emails, texts. He won't respond. Then maybe try a different approach. Show him instead of telling him. People believe actions more than words. He paused as the line moved again. What did you fight about anyway, if you don't mind me asking? Catherine stood, watched the family ahead of them. 2 parents, 3 kids, all laughing together. Something inside her finally shattered. Her breath came short, panicked. I need to... Hey? Ethan's hand was on her arm, gentle but grounding. Breathe. Just breathe. I don't know who I am anymore, Catherine whispered, the words tumbling out like a confession she'd been holding for years. I look in the mirror and I don't recognize myself. I became exactly what I swore I'd never be, someone so obsessed with success that I forgot how to be human. I'm 41 years old, I have billions of dollars, and I realized tonight that I don't have a single person who'd miss me if I disappeared. Not really. Not the me underneath all the money and power. Her voice broke completely. My adoptive parents are still alive. They're in their 80s. They call every Sunday, and I never answer because talking to them reminds me that even the people who chose to raise me never quite knew how to love me. And now I've become someone who doesn't know how to love anyone either. David was right. I've turned into a machine. Efficient, successful, and completely empty inside. She was crying openly now, not bothering to hide behind the sunglasses anymore. And the worst part? I don't even know if I can change. What if this is just who I am? What if I've been alone so long that I don't know how to be anything else?
They were halfway through the line when Leo finally got his travel Legos. He immediately became absorbed in building, occasionally showing Catherine his progress, asking her opinion on design choices like she was an expert. She found herself genuinely engaged, offering suggestions, feeling oddly honored when he incorporated her ideas. "You're good with him," Ethan observed. "Do you have kids?" "No, never had time." Catherine heard how hollow that sounded. "I've spent the past 15 years building a company. Relationships, family, personal life. I kept telling myself I'd make time for all that later, after the next funding round, after the IPO, after we hit our growth targets. But later never came." "It's not too late," Ethan said. "I know that's what everyone says, but it's true. You're what? Late 30s? 41. Still time, if you want it." Ethan watched Leo. "I'll be honest, though, parenting is the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than my engineering degree, harder than my job, harder than grief. It's relentless and exhausting, and you're always convinced you're screwing it up." "But," Catherine prompted. "But it's also the only thing I've done that feels genuinely important. When Leo hugs me and says he loves me, when he tells his teacher I'm his hero, when he asks me questions about the world with that look of absolute trust that I'll have the answers, that matters more than any professional achievement ever could." Catherine thought about her empty penthouse, her 80-hour work weeks, the awards and accolades that decorated her office but didn't warm anything inside her. "My brother has 3 kids. I barely know them. I send expensive gifts on birthdays and show up for major holidays if I'm not traveling. But I don't know their favorite colors or what makes them laugh or what they're scared of." Her voice broke. "I'm the aunt who's basically a stranger." "You could change that," Ethan suggested gently, "if your brother gave you another chance." "Why would he? I chose money over people, over him, over his kids, over everything that actually matters. I'm exactly the kind of person I used to despise when we started the company." Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then, "When my wife died, I thought I had to be strong for Leo, keep it together,
Never let him see me break. Be the perfect father who had all the answers. But grief doesn't work like that. And one night, Leo found me crying in the bathroom. I was so ashamed. I thought I'd failed him. He looked at Catherine. But you know what he did? He climbed in my lap and said, "It's okay to be sad, Batty. I'm sad too. We can be sad together." And I realized he didn't need me to be perfect. He just needed me to be honest, to be present, even in my brokenness. Ethan's voice was gentle, but firm. "You're not a machine, Catherine. You're a person who's been protecting herself for so long that the armor became who you think you are. But it's not. Underneath all that control, all that success, you're still the girl who needed to be chosen, who needed to belong. And that girl is still in there, terrified of needing people, because everyone who was supposed to stay left her feeling like she wasn't enough." Catherine stared at him, feeling seen in a way that was terrifying and liberating at once. "How do you know that?" "Because I see the same thing in Leo sometimes. That fear that if he needs too much, I'll leave like his mother did. Not consciously, she didn't choose to die, but the abandonment wound doesn't care about intentions. It just knows that people leave." He paused. "The difference is Leo's 6, and I can help him heal before he builds walls so high he forgets who he is underneath them. You've had 41 years to perfect those walls, but they can still come down, if you're brave enough to let them." "How long did it take," Catherine asked, "to become that person?" "I'm still becoming him," Ethan admitted. "Some days I nail it. Some days I fail spectacularly. But I keep trying. That's all any of us can do. Keep trying to be better than we were yesterday." They were nearing the front of the line now. Santa was visible, a surprisingly convincing one with a real beard and genuine warmth. He watched him interact with each child, giving them his complete attention, making them feel special and heard. It reminded him of something his brother used to say about leadership, that the best leaders make people feel valued, not processed. "What are you going to tell Santa?" Leo asked Catherine, tugging on her sleeve again. "You decided yet?" Catherine looked at this little boy who'd somehow become part of her Christmas Eve, at his father who'd offered sanctuary without asking for anything in return, at the hundreds of people around them all focused on something bigger than quarterly returns and market share. "I'm going to ask for the courage to apologize properly, and the wisdom to know how to make things right." "That's good," Leo approved. "Santa likes when people want to be better. He told me that last year." Ethan and Catherine's eyes met over Leo's head, both of them smiling at the boy's certainty. And Catherine felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Small and fragile, but real.
When it was finally their turn, Leo bounded up to Santa with unfettered excitement. Catherine hung back, feeling ridiculous, but Ethan gestured for her to come closer. "Leo wants you to be part of this," he said quietly. "You're with us now. That's how it works." So Catherine found herself standing beside Ethan while Leo climbed onto Santa's lap and launched into an elaborate explanation of everything he wanted for Christmas, most of which seemed to involve toys that transformed into other toys. Santa listened with remarkable patience, occasionally asking clarifying questions, treating Leo's wishes with the gravity they deserved. Then he looked at Ethan. "And what about you, Dad? What's on your list this year?" Ethan smiled. "Same as always. Just want my boy to be healthy and happy. Everything else is extra." Santa's eyes crinkled. "That's a good list, short but complete." Then he turned to Catherine, and she froze. "And you, young lady, what would you like for Christmas?" Catherine felt absurd. She was a 41-year-old billionaire talking to a mall Santa. But something about the man's kind eyes, about Leo's eager face watching her, about Ethan's encouraging nod, something made her play along. "I want to fix something I broke," Catherine said quietly. "I hurt someone I love, and I want to make it right, but I don't know how." Santa regarded her thoughtfully. "Well now, that's a tough one. Can't wrap that up in a box with a bow, but I'll tell you what I tell all the kids who ask for impossible things. Sometimes the magic isn't in getting what you want handed to you. Sometimes the magic is in discovering you had the power to make it happen all along." "That's very Wizard of Oz," Catherine said, then caught herself. "Sorry, I'm not trying to be cynical. "No, you're right," Santa chuckled. "I steal from the classics. But the point stands. You want to fix something? Then fix it. Stop waiting for permission or the perfect moment. Just do the hard work of making amends."
"What if he doesn't want to hear it?" Catherine asked, surprising herself with the vulnerability in her voice. "What if I've hurt him too badly?" "Then you try anyway," Santa said simply. "And if he's not ready to forgive you yet, you respect that, and you keep being the kind of person worth forgiving. You show him through your actions that you've changed. And maybe, eventually, he'll see it." He paused. "But even if he doesn't, you'll know you tried. You'll know you became better. And that's worth something too." Leo, who'd been listening to this exchange with interest, piped up. "Are you talking about a brother fight? My friend Tommy fights with his brother all the time. They just say sorry and play again." "If only it were that simple," Catherine said, ruffling his hair without thinking. The casual affection surprised her. She'd never been comfortable with children, but something about Leo made it easy. They posed for the traditional photo, and Catherine almost objected, but Ethan insisted. "Come on, part of the experience. You've come this far." So there she was, captured in a photo with a mall Santa, a 6-year-old named Leo, and his father Ethan, a single dad she'd met 2 hours ago who'd somehow become more real to her than most people she'd known for years. As they walked away from Santa, Leo clutching his candy cane, Catherine felt something shift inside her, a decision crystallizing. "I need to go," she said suddenly. I have to try, right now, tonight, before I lose my courage." "Where do you need to go?" Ethan asked. "My brother's house. He lives in Bellevue. It's Christmas Eve. He'll be there with his family. And I'm going to show up and apologize and beg him to give me another chance. I'm going to tell him he was right about everything and that I want to change." Catherine looked at Ethan, at Leo. "Thank you, both of you. You have no idea what you've given me tonight." "Wait," Ethan said, pulling out his phone. "Give me your number. Not because of who you are, just I want to know how it goes, if that's okay." Catherine rattled off her number, watched him save it. "I turned off my phone, but I'll turn it back on. I'll text you, let you know if he slams the door in my face or if there's hope." "There's always hope. That's what tonight taught me too. I came here thinking it would just be another Christmas without Leo's mom, another year of pretending I'm okay. But meeting you reminded me that connection happens in the strangest places, that we're all struggling with something, and that helping someone else helps us too." Catherine impulsively hugged him, then knelt down and hugged Leo. "Thank you for sharing your dad and your Santa line with me. You're a very special kid." "I know," Leo said with perfect 6-year-old confidence. "Merry Christmas, Catherine." "Merry Christmas, Leo."
The drive to Bellevue took 30 minutes, but Catherine's mind raced through 15 years of memories. She and David starting the company in their parents' garage, late nights coding together, arguing about features, dreaming about what they could build. The pride in their parents' eyes when they got their first investor, the joy when they realized they were actually going to make it. And then the slow drift. As the company grew, as the pressure mounted, as Catherine became more focused on scaling and David became more focused on impact, they'd started wanting different things. She'd wanted growth, he'd wanted purpose. She'd dismissed his concerns as naive idealism. He'd accused her of selling out. The fight 3 months ago had been the culmination of years of tension. David had presented a proposal to redirect 30% of their profits into community programs, affordable technology for schools, grants for underserved areas. Catherine had shut it down without discussion, citing investor expectations and market realities. David had called her a corporate sellout who'd forgotten why they started. Catherine had said he was living in a fantasy world and that real business required hard choices. He'd quit the next day, sent her his resignation via email, refused to answer her calls, and Catherine had been too proud, too angry, too convinced she was right to chase after him. Until tonight, until a single dad in a Santa line had looked at her with compassion instead of judgment and reminded her that being right wasn't the same as being good. She pulled up to David's house, a modest colonial in a family-friendly neighborhood, a deliberate contrast to her downtown penthouse. Lights glowed warm in every window. Through the front window, she could see a Christmas tree, stockings on the mantel, children's artwork taped to walls. Life, messy and real and beautiful. Catherine sat in the car for 10 minutes, gathering courage. Finally, she got out, walked to the door, knocked before she could talk herself out of it. David's wife, Melissa, opened the door. Her eyes widened. "Catherine?" "Hi, Mel. I'm sorry to intrude on Christmas Eve. I know I should have called, but I need to talk to David. Please, 5 minutes. If he wants me to leave after that, I will." Melissa studied her for a long moment, then stepped back. "He's in the living room with the kids. They're watching Elf for the 3rd time today. Fair warning, he might not be happy to see you." "I know. I deserve that." She followed Melissa into the living room. David was on the couch, his 3 kids piled around him. Twins, who were 9, and a 4-year-old daughter on his lap. They were all laughing at something on screen, the perfect picture of family contentment.
David looked up, saw Catherine, and his expression closed off immediately. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you," Catherine said. "Please. I know I don't deserve your time, but I'm asking anyway." "Kids, go wash up for bed," David said, lifting his daughter off his lap. The children grumbled, but obeyed, eyeing Catherine curiously as they passed. When they were gone, David stood, arms crossed. "You have 5 minutes." Catherine took a deep breath. "You were right. About everything. About me becoming someone who cares more about money than people. About me losing sight of why we started the company. About me being exactly the kind of CEO we swore we'd never become." Her voice cracked. "You were right, and I was too proud and too scared to admit it." David's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. "I thought I was being practical, responsible. I thought caring about profit margins and investor expectations was what CEOs were supposed to do. But tonight, I met someone who helped me see that I've been using success as an excuse to avoid actually living, to avoid connection and vulnerability and all the things that make us human." Catherine wiped her eyes. "I've spent 3 months being angry at you for leaving. But the truth is, I'm the one who left first. I left the partnership we had, the vision we shared, the brother-sister relationship that used to matter more than anything." "Catherine, please, let me finish." She stepped closer. "I can't undo what I said. I can't take back the fight, or the 3 months of silence, or the ways I've hurt you. But I can tell you that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I can tell you that I want to change. I want to be the kind of person, the kind of CEO, the kind of sister that you can be proud of. I want to build a company that matters, not just one that makes money. And I want to do it with you, if you'll give me another chance." David was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Catherine held her breath, prepared for rejection, for him to tell her it was too late. "What changed?" David finally asked. 3 months of silence, and suddenly on Christmas Eve, you show up with an apology. Why now? Catherine almost told him about the mall, about Ethan and Leo, about hiding in a Santa line and finding unexpected wisdom. But instead, she told him the deeper truth. I had a moment of clarity tonight. I realized I've built an empire, but I have no one to share it with. I'm 41 years old, I'm worth billions, and I'm completely, utterly alone. And the worst part is, I did it to myself. I pushed away everyone who mattered because I was too focused on success to see that I was becoming a person I didn't even like. She met his eyes. I don't want to keep being that person, David. And I don't want to lose you. You're my brother. You're the only family I have left who matters. Please, don't let my pride cost us any more time. David's expression softened slightly. You hurt me, Kat. You dismissed my work, my values, everything I care about. You treated me like I was naive for wanting our company to actually help people. I know. And you were right to leave. You deserved better than how I treated you. But I'm asking you to give me a chance to be better, to show you I can change. Not overnight, not perfectly, but genuinely. Melissa appeared in the doorway, cleared her throat gently. David, the kids want to say goodnight to you before bed. Give me a minute, honey, David said, not taking his eyes off Catherine. When Melissa left, he sat down heavily on the couch. What exactly are you proposing? Come back to the company as equal partner, not employee. We implement your community program. Not 30%, let's start with 50. We restructure our entire mission around social impact, not just profit. We build the company you wanted, the one that actually makes a difference. Catherine sat beside him. And I step back from some of the day-to-day operations. I hire people I trust. I delegate. I stop trying to control everything. I make space in my life for what matters, including being a real aunt to your kids, not just the distant relative who sends expensive gifts. That's a big change, David said carefully. What if you try for a month and realize you hate it? What if you resent me for forcing you to change the company? Then I deal with those feelings in therapy, not by sabotaging the work. I'm not saying I'll be perfect at this. I'm saying I want to try. And I'm asking you to give me the chance. David was silent for a long moment. Catherine held her breath, prepared for rejection. Okay, but I have conditions. Anything.
First, you actually go to therapy. Not because I'm demanding it, but because you clearly need help processing whatever's driving this self-destructive perfectionism. Second, you take 1 full day off per week. No email, no work, just rest. Third, you come to Sunday family dinners every week. No excuses unless you're genuinely traveling. My kids deserve to know their aunt. Done, Catherine said immediately. All of it. I agree to all of it. And fourth, David said, his voice softer now, you call mom and dad. Our parents, your real parents, the ones who chose you even if they didn't know how to show it perfectly. They're in their 80s, Kat. They won't be here forever. And I think you need to tell them you love them before it's too late. Not for them, for you. Catherine's breath caught. I don't know if I can. Then learn, David said gently. He held out his hand. Catherine pulled the brass compass from her pocket, the one she'd been clutching throughout the entire conversation, and placed it in his palm. I gave you this so you'd never lose your way. But you can't navigate by someone else's compass, Kat. You have to find your own true north. He closed her fingers back around it. Keep it, but not as a reminder of who you failed to be, as a promise of who you're becoming, starting tonight. He pulled her into his arms then, and Catherine collapsed against him, sobbing like the lost child she'd always been inside. David held her tight, one hand cradling the back of her head like she was precious, like she was chosen, like she belonged. I thought I'd lost you forever, Catherine choked out. You can't lose me, David said fiercely. I'm your brother. Not by blood, not by accident, but by choice. And I choose you, Kat. Even when you mess up, even when you forget who you are, I choose you. Behind them, Melissa appeared with the kids. The 4-year-old, Emma, broke free and ran to Catherine, wrapping small arms around her legs. Aunt Kathy, you came for Christmas! Catherine knelt down, pulled the little girl close, and let herself feel it, the uncomplicated love of a child who didn't care about net worth or board meetings or how many years Catherine had been too busy to really know her. Just a child who was happy her aunt was there. "I'm sorry I've been gone so long," Catherine whispered to Emma, but she was looking at David. "I'm so sorry I forgot what matters." "You're here now," David said, his own eyes wet. "That's what counts. You're here now."
Catherine stayed for hot chocolate with David and Melissa, met the kids properly for the first time in months, learned that the twins loved soccer and science in equal measure, that the 4-year-old was obsessed with unicorns and had opinions about everything. She stayed until the kids went to bed, then sat with David planning what the company restructure would look like, both of them excited in a way they hadn't been in years. When she finally left, it was after midnight, technically Christmas Day. Catherine sat in her car and turned on her phone, watched notifications flood in, messages from her assistant, her board members, business contacts wondering where she'd disappeared to. She ignored all of them and texted Ethan. He said, "Yes, we're going to fix the company together. Thank you for tonight. You saved me." The response came immediately. "So glad it worked out. Merry Christmas, Catherine. You earned this." Then, after a pause, "Leo wants to know if you'd like to join us for Christmas dinner tomorrow. No pressure, but we always make way too much food, and you mentioned being alone. Doors open if you want it." Catherine stared at the message, at this unexpected invitation from a man she'd known for a few hours. She should decline, should spend tomorrow working on the company restructure, planning strategy, being productive. Instead, she typed, "I'd love that. What time and what can I bring?" 2 p.m. Just bring yourself. Address attached. Fair warning, it's loud, chaotic, and Leo will make you play approximately 800 games of Legos. "Sounds perfect," Catherine sent back, and meant it. Ethan's apartment was small but warm, decorated with an eclectic mix of handmade ornaments and photos. Catherine arrived at exactly 2 p.m., holding a ridiculously expensive bottle of wine and a Lego set she had bought that morning that was probably way too advanced for a 6-year-old, but Leo had seemed like the kind of kid who'd appreciate a challenge. Leo answered the door in a Christmas sweater with a T-Rex wearing a Santa hat. "You came! Dad said you might be too busy being important." "I told him you'd come," Ethan corrected, appearing behind his son. He wore a yellow sweater that had definitely seen better days and an apron that said, "Kiss the cook." "Come in." Fair warning, the turkey's slightly burnt because someone got distracted building Lego spaceships. "I was helping," Leo protested. "You were a wonderful assistant," Ethan agreed, "but we were both distracted." The afternoon was chaotic in the best way. They ate slightly burnt turkey and laughed about it. Leo insisted on showing Catherine every Lego creation he had ever made. They played board games that Leo made up rules for that made no sense, but everyone went along with anyway. They watched Christmas movies and ate too many cookies, and Catherine couldn't remember the last time she had felt completely, perfectly content. As evening approached, Leo fell asleep on the couch mid-movie, worn out from excitement. Ethan carefully moved him to his bedroom while Catherine cleaned up the cookie debris from their earlier baking attempt. "Thank you for inviting me," Catherine said when Ethan returned. "I know it's weird having a basically stranger crash your Christmas." "You're not a stranger. You're someone who needed family today, and we had extra space at our table." He poured them both wine, gestured to the couch. "How did it go with your brother? Beyond the texts. The real story." Catherine settled in, found herself telling him everything. The apology, the conditions, the plan to restructure the company, the Sunday dinners with nieces and nephews she barely knew. Ethan listened with complete attention, the kind of presence that made people feel heard. "I'm proud of you," he said when she finished. "That took real courage. Admitting you were wrong, asking for help, agreeing to change everything about how you operate, that's not easy for anyone, especially someone as successful as you." "Success is subjective," Catherine said. "I'm starting to realize that what I called success was actually just accumulation. Money, power, recognition, but no joy, no connection, no purpose beyond proving I could do it." She looked at him. "You have less than me by every material measure, and you're happier than I've ever been. That says something." "I don't know if I'm happy exactly. I'm content. I'm purposeful. I know my life matters because Leo tells me every day.
But I'd be lying if I said I don't get lonely, that single parenting isn't hard, that I don't sometimes wonder what it would be like to have a partner to share the load.
Have you dated, Catherine asked, since your wife? A few times. It never works out. Most people aren't interested in dating a single dad with the 6-year-old who comes first, always. And I'm not willing to compromise on that. Leo deserves a parent who's all in, not someone who resents him for taking up space in my life. Ethan paused. What about you? Any relationships? Nothing serious. I was married to the company. Catherine smiled wryly. Terrible spouse. Demanding, jealous, took up all my time and gave nothing back. I'm thinking about a divorce. Ethan laughed. Sounds healthy. What will you do with all your free time? I don't know, Catherine admitted. I've spent 15 years with every hour scheduled. The idea of having time to just exist? It's terrifying and exciting in equal measure. They talked until almost midnight. About everything and nothing. About Ethan's work as a software engineer, about Leo's obsession with dinosaurs and space in equal measure, about Catherine's plans for the company, about their respective childhoods and dreams and fears. It was the kind of conversation Catherine used to have with David before the company consumed everything, the kind where time disappeared and nothing existed except the moment. I should go, Catherine finally said, although she didn't want to. You need sleep, and I've kept you up way too late. I'm glad you stayed, Ethan said, walking her to the door. This was the best Christmas I've had in 4 years. Usually, Leo and I celebrate alone, and it's good but also sad, missing his mom, feeling that empty space. But today, with you here, it felt full, like we were a family instead of just 2 people surviving. Catherine felt something catch in her chest. It felt that way to me too. They stood in the doorway, something unspoken hanging between them. Finally, Ethan said, Can I see you again? Not just texting, actually spending time together. I know you're busy and important and probably have a million things to do, but I'd like to get to know you better. The real you, not the CEO. I'd like that, Catherine said softly. I'd like that a lot. Good. Then let's plan on it. Coffee next week or lunch, whatever works with your schedule. Lunch, Catherine decided. Wednesday? I'm blocking out 1 day a week with no meetings, trying to learn work-life balance. Seems like a good time to practice. Wednesday it is. Catherine drove home through empty Christmas night streets, feeling lighter than she had in years. She had a brother who'd forgiven her, a company she could reshape into something meaningful, new relationships forming with nieces and nephews, and maybe, possibly, the beginning of something with a single dad who'd shown her that kindness to strangers was its own kind of magic.
The company restructure took 4 months of intensive work. Catherine and David, working together like they had in the early days, rebuilt Wells Tech from the ground up. They launched the community program, investing in schools and technology education in underserved areas. They created grants for small businesses. They restructured their labor practices, improving working conditions and pay for every employee. The board was skeptical, investors worried, but Catherine discovered something interesting. When you lead with purpose instead of just profit, people respond. Customers became loyal, employees became passionate, and gradually, profits actually increased because people wanted to support a company that cared about more than the bottom line. Catherine also kept her promises to David. She went to therapy, working through the perfectionism and control issues that had nearly destroyed her life. She took Wednesdays off, spending them with Ethan and Leo more often than not. She attended Sunday dinners, became a real presence in her nieces' and nephews' lives. And slowly she became someone she actually liked. Someone who measured success by impact, not just accumulation. someone who had friends and family and a life beyond the office. Her relationship with Ethan deepened naturally, neither of them rushing, both of them cautious but hopeful. They dated, slowly and deliberately, learning each other, letting Leo adjust to having Catherine around more often. It wasn't always smooth. Catherine still struggled with work-life balance, and Ethan sometimes worried she'd revert to her old patterns. But they talked through it, worked through it, chose each other daily. 6 months after that Christmas Eve in the mall, Catherine stood in front of a room full of business school students, invited to give a guest lecture on leadership. She looked out at the eager faces, saw herself at 22, so sure that success meant money and power. I used to think leadership meant being the smartest person in the room, making all the decisions, working harder than anyone else, sacrificing everything for the company. And that approach made me a billionaire. It also made me miserable. She told them about that Christmas Eve, about hiding in a mall because she couldn't face another performance of pretending to have it all together, about a single dad in a Santa line who'd offered sanctuary without asking for anything in return, about a brother who'd forgiven her when she didn't deserve it. Real leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest, admitting when you're wrong, asking for help, making space for other people's ideas and perspectives, building something that matters, not just something that makes money. After the lecture, a young woman approached her. "Miss Wells, I'm graduating next month. I have job offers from 3 companies, all with great salaries. But I also have an idea for a nonprofit that wouldn't make me any money but might actually help people. Everyone says I should take the corporate job, build wealth, then do good later. What do you think?" Catherine thought about the advice she would have given 6 months ago. Take the money, build security, do the responsible thing. But that woman didn't exist anymore. "I think later never comes," Catherine said. "I think we tell ourselves we'll make time for what matters after the next promotion, after we hit our savings goal, after we achieve whatever arbitrary milestone we've set. But life doesn't wait. Purpose doesn't wait. If you have a chance to do meaningful work now, take it. You can always make money. You can't always make a difference." The young woman's eyes brightened. "Really? You think it's okay to choose purpose over profit?" "I think it's the only choice that matters. Everything else is just noise."
Catherine stood in the mall, watching the Santa line stretch across the center court. This time, she wasn't hiding. She stood openly, wearing a yellow sweater that matched Ethan's, holding Leo's hand while he bounced with excitement about seeing Santa for what he proclaimed was definitely the last time, because I'm 7 now and basically grown up. "You said that last year," Ethan reminded him, amused. "Yeah, but this time I mean it," Leo insisted. Then, "Can Catherine sit with me when I talk to Santa?" Catherine looked down at the boy who'd become such a central part of her life. "If you want me to, absolutely." "I want you to. You're like my bonus mom now. That's what Dad says, that you're our bonus person that makes everything better." Catherine's eyes met Ethan's over Leo's head, saw the love there, the certainty. They hadn't talked about marriage yet, both of them taking it slow, but Catherine knew with absolute clarity that this was her future. This man, this boy, this makeshift family they'd built from a chance encounter in a Santa line. "There's the woman from last year," Leo suddenly said, pointing. "The one who gave you the courage. Should we say hi?" Catherine followed his gaze, saw a woman standing alone near the bookstore, baseball cap pulled low, looking lost and overwhelmed. The same haunted expression Catherine had worn a year ago. "Yeah," Catherine said, squeezing Leo's hand. "We should definitely say hi." She walked over, Ethan and Leo following. The woman looked up warily as they approached. "Hi," Catherine said gently. I know this is weird, but I was standing exactly where you're standing a year ago, looking like I was about to break, and someone helped me. So I wanted to offer the same thing. If you need somewhere to just breathe for a while, to be invisible, our Santa line has space, no questions asked." The woman stared at her, eyes filling with tears. I don't even know you." "Doesn't matter," Ethan said, stepping forward.
We help each other through the hard stuff. That's how it works." The woman looked at them, this family of 3 offering sanctuary to a stranger, and something in her face cracked. "Okay, yes, please. I just need somewhere to hide for a while." "Then come hide with us," Leo said, taking her hand with 6-year-old confidence. "The Santa line is the best place for hiding. Catherine did it last year, and it changed everything. Maybe it'll change everything for you, too." As they walked to the line, Catherine caught Ethan's eye. He smiled, that warm, genuine smile that still made her heart skip, and she knew what he was thinking. That this was how it worked. You got helped, then you helped others. You received grace, then you extended it. The circle kept going, kindness radiating outward, changing lives in unexpected ways. A year ago, Catherine had hidden in this mall, broken and alone, convinced she'd destroyed everything that mattered. She'd been saved by a single dad in a Santa line who'd recognized her pain and offered shelter without judgment. Now she was back, not hiding, but helping. Not alone, but surrounded by love. Not broken, but healing. She'd lost a company's old vision, but found a new one. Lost her isolation, but found connection. Lost her certainty, but found purpose. Sometimes the magic of Christmas isn't in getting what you want. Sometimes it's in discovering you were asking for the wrong things all along. Sometimes it's in a chance encounter, a moment of vulnerability, a stranger's kindness that shows you a different way to live. Catherine looked at Ethan, at Leo, at the woman they were helping, at the line full of families celebrating together. And she thought about the woman she'd been, desperate, hiding, convinced she was too broken to fix. That woman would never recognize the person Catherine had become, wouldn't understand how losing control of her company led to finding control of her life, wouldn't believe that standing in a Santa line could lead to transformation. But Catherine understood now. Sometimes you have to hide to be found. Sometimes you have to fall apart to be put back together better. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what actually matters. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, a single dad in a Santa line recognizes your pain and shows you that even in your darkest moment, you're not alone. You've never been alone. You've just been waiting for someone to help you see it. Merry Christmas, Catherine thought, watching the woman beside her slowly relax, watching Leo chatter about Santa, watching Ethan catch her eye and smile. Merry Christmas to everyone hiding in plain sight, waiting for their chance encounter, their moment of grace. Their single dad in a Santa line who changes everything. The magic is real. You just have to be brave enough to accept help when it's offered and wise enough to pass it on when you can.
If this story moved your heart, you've just experienced what Becca's Stories is all about. We create powerful narratives about unexpected encounters, the transformative power of kindness, and discovering that sometimes the help we need comes from the most unlikely places. Subscribe to Becca's Stories and join our community that believes in the magic of human connection, second chances, and the courage to accept help even when you think you don't deserve it. Every week we bring you stories of single parents who solve impossible problems, of strangers who become family, of lives changed by one brave choice to be vulnerable. Share this story with someone who's hiding their pain, who needs a reminder that asking for help is strength, not weakness. Comment below and tell us about a time when a stranger showed you kindness that changed everything. Because here at Becca's Stories, we believe that we're all just one conversation away from transformation, one act of kindness away from healing, one Santa line away from finding our way home. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best place to hide is in plain sight, surrounded by people who see you anyway and love you because of it, not despite it.